So I'm here in the middle of a thunderstorm, so there are going to be some sound effects happening in the background. Um, Hopefully the audio is still going to be okay though. In any case, a couple weeks ago I was sitting in the car at a petrol station waiting for the petrol to finish filling up when another car parked in front of the little 24-hour quick shop that's at the petrol station, and it had a father and a wife and the mother and a child in the car. And the father was very angry about something and was speaking quite harshly to the wife. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but it was very, very clear in his behavior, in his mannerisms, that he was quite angry, and he was speaking to the wife in that anger. The child was sitting in the back seat. The wife got out of the car, she went into the shop, and then the father started speaking to the child in that same anger, in that same tone. And it brought up the question within me, is anger child abuse? Because when we're kids, when we're little, we don't necessarily understand how anger works. We don't necessarily understand that we are not responsible for, to blame for, or are the cause of someone's anger, especially our parents and family members. What happens with kids is that you internalize it. It's that anger that someone else is experiencing and expressing, it gets turned into this hurt inside of us. And we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to deal with the anger. We don't know how to deal with how we're responding to it. We don't understand why it's happening. A lot of the time kids blame themselves when the people close to them get angry and maybe take that anger out on the kids. The kids think that it's their fault, that they somehow did something to deserve this treatment. And even when the anger is not specifically directed at the child, the vibrational force of that energy that's happening inside of someone, when it's strong enough, it's almost tangible. It's like a thick fog that you can see and feel around you, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily directed at you. So it's like kids, even in the environment of someone who's very angry, even if the anger is not directed at them, they feel that. And that's like one of the ways, I know when I was a kid, how I would respond to that was I would feel very small. I'd make myself very small, try and hide, and just get away. Even if I couldn't physically get away, I'd try and get away inside of myself, get away from that feeling that I felt when someone else was angry. So, from those points, yes, you could say that anger is a form of child abuse. And what makes it quite difficult is that no one's perfect. We're all going through our personal processes. We're all facing challenges. We're all going through things. And sometimes we're going to have wobbles. So what the hell do you do when you're having a big wobble and there's a child around? Because even if you don't outwardly express it, that energetic force inside of you is enough to be felt by the people around you. All I have to do is look at someone's face to tell if they're angry. All I have to do is listen to the pace of their breathing, Look at what their eyes are doing. Listen to how they're speaking. Look at their body language. And that's just physical signs. That doesn't even touch on that emotional, energetic feeling that you kind of feel when someone else is angry, and you can sense it. So there's very likely not one person in this world who is able to never ever ever get angry in a space where a child is or will be. So most of us, obviously, we've got friends, we've got family, some people have their own kids. How do we support ourselves in those moments where it feels like we're just being taken over by this emotional force of anger? And it can be difficult, especially when we have not yet effectively defined our relationship to that anger, where we still give that anger power, where we still say to ourselves that we cannot control that anger, that it's too much, and things like that. So that would be my first suggestion, is make sure that you know who you are in relation to your anger, so that when you get angry, do you revert to your default and become completely powerless to the anger? Or are you deliberately and willfully and wholeheartedly practicing stopping yourself from doing or saying anything, at the very least, while you're angry? Now, especially in the beginning, it can be very difficult to let the emotional state drop. So the tools that I found that help me is, usually when I'm angry at something or about something, and I have very good reasons for being angry. Now, what I'll do is I will force myself to look at different perspectives, to look at different perceptions, different possible reasons, look at the whole thing, the whole situation differently. And very often I find that through doing that, I actually will slowly but surely release the anger, because my reason, my justification for being angry is kind of slipping away, and maybe it's not a good enough reason anymore now that I've actually really taken the time to consider other possible solutions or reasons or motivations. So that's one thing. Force yourself to see things differently. Force yourself to look at alternatives, to look for solutions. Then the other point is tools like writing. Use writing as a way to see for yourself what's actually going on inside of you. Because what happens when we have all these emotions kind of just tumbling around inside of us is it becomes hard to see things clearly. Everything feels like there's no clarity. It feels like we're overwhelmed, like I can't see anything. I don't understand why this is happening. I don't know, I'm so confused. And it's like, it's a very foggy state that we are in when we're emotional. So what helps is to write down your thoughts, your feelings, all of the reasons why you're feeling this way. Write everything down, everything and anything that comes to mind that's related to how you're feeling right now. And within that, if you read back on it in an objective manner, so like from an outsider's perspective maybe, you are going to start seeing patterns, things that are common themes in your thought patterns and how you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling powerless, and the only way that you can feel like you now have power again is by becoming angry and feeling that physical power that comes so naturally with anger. So that's one example. But I'm not going to go too much more into those examples because I'm already quite far into the video. So find ways to work with your anger. Know that it's a process and be open about it with the child. If it's a child who's in your life regularly, especially if it's your own child or a family member or a friend's child, be open about it. Don't try and hide it. Share that you are busy dealing with something, that you are working through these points. You can even start showing them how you're working through it if it's not too sensitive. And obviously if they're at a point where they're going to understand what you're saying, although then that also opens the topic of kids actually understand a lot more than we give them credit for. But in any case, main point is don't try and hide it, because when you try and hide it, you know, the people around you can still feel what's going on. They can still sense it. So that just brings an element of dishonesty, unless you're in a particular situation where it is better to rather not discuss what you're dealing with. If it's sensitive kind of stuff or a sensitive situation, things like that. So please obviously use common sense. And I'm going to end this video now because my electricity's just gone off. I think I'm in the middle of a storm right now. So if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead, contact me. You can send a direct message, and if you would like to support me, you can do so on Patreon. The link is in the description of this video. Otherwise, if you'd like me to expand on any particular points, let me know. Thank you for watching. See you next time.